Should have been recording that, damn it.
Oh, dang.
That would have been a good cold open.
Well, something about a cool jacket and
And turtlenecks and
what's the deal with turtlenecks?
striking while the iron's hot and too much heat in the kitchen and the rolling rabbit gathers no moss.
And section 31.
Section 37
Or is it 37?
in a row.
Shit.
Lazor Comb.
We are not going to panic.
What the heck even happened to you, man?
Vengeance.
Shrimp Daddy! Ha 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 ha!
Give him a hockey stick!
What am I, fucking magician, man?
Am I some kind of fucking magician, man?
Fucking nerd.
Whatever. It's not like we're professionals anyway.
And I'm not sorry anymore.
Time to big brain.
Every day, yes.
What is the airwolf of trains? Captain's log. Supplemental. Entry 108 of the Lazor Comb podcast. The podcast where two captains bravely go into classic television with a fine-toothed laser. I am one of your hosts, Ensign Cal.
And I am your other host, Commander Siege. You know I'm a commander because on my sick jacket right here, I have 3 pips.
That's right. Not 4.
Not 4, that would make me captain, so I am a commander. Fun fact, when I bought this jacket, because the jacket was made to order, you can actually choose whether you want a comm badge on it or not, and if you wanted pips, and how many. And I chose commander.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well worth the 7,000 Imperial credits you spent on it.
My replicator, I definitely used up some replicator rations for this. Sick jacket, though. I actually just wear it around casually.
It's just nice, yeah. It's just a nice jacket.
Most people don't even know that it's Star Trek.
That's probably a plus. Right?
Yeah.
The fact that there was a Dork Tales Star Trek thing like a while back, and the producer of that, the owner of that show and channel and community, it's like, oh, let's do like costuming and stuff. but you guys got to pay for it. And it's like, well, I'm not getting paid for this. You're making the Patreon dollars off of this, or the YouTube revenue off of it. So I'm going to buy something, unless you want to buy me something, but I'm going to buy something that I would feel comfortable not just wearing like 8 times for like a show. Like I'm not spending, and everybody else like spent some money and they got like, and it was like ill-fitting and they like only wore it for the show or whatever. And I just got like a zip up. Actually, maybe I'll wear it next time. Because we got one more after this, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Lower Decks, that's right. And it's just like a zip up. It's like thin. It's like a stretchy, like nylon-ish.
Yeah.
So it's like form-fitting, but not like tight. And I was like, oh yeah, I just like wear it, right? But it was like problematic because it was just like a hoodie type zip-up thing for the show. So I'm like, well, just pretend my character's pretending to be. It was like a super goofy show. But I always felt like
my character is off duty, okay?
That's right. I role-played them like they were a stowaway.
Okay.
Like they were pretending to be in engineering.
Hey, if Commander Shepard can wander around the Normandy in an N7 hoodie, if you bought the collector's edition, then damn it, you can wander around the U.S.S. whatever in in
I
Star
think
Trunk
I've got
hoodie.
it right here. Yes, I do. Eh? Eh?
Yeah, it's pretty
Eh?
cool.
Eh? Eh? Uh-oh. This is not a sign for the kiddies to play.
Oh
I'll
no.
take off my desert camo. There we go.
Operation Desert Storm.
Yeah, see?
Sweet.
It's just cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was like, oh, well, that's not like really like, like a uniform or like whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but if I'm paying out of pocket for this, I want something that I'll just like wear.
Yeah, totally. That's one of the reasons why I was fine paying what I did for this jacket. This jacket cost me with like shipping, I think around $250.
Oh,
But
that's actually much less than I thought it was.
but it's made of real leather. And yeah, it's like if you know Star Trek and like you've seen like the end of season 3 of Picard, like this is a Star Trek jacket.
Yeah.
But otherwise it kind of just looks like an interesting
Like a
looking
neat
leather
jacket,
jacket.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about pleather compared to like leather is it'll start to flake
Yeah.
from the oils in your sweat and stuff, and it'll just happen with time, no matter even if you don't wear it.
Yeah.
Like I had a sweet kind of like black and gray jacket that Sage used to call my like Leon Kennedy jacket, but then
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
neck area like would just like start to crumble, and then I put it away like one season and like brought it out and just like went like this and just like a bunch of plastic particles went everywhere.
It was
And I'm
like it was like a snowstorm of pleather.
whereas like I'm actually surprised that that's leather and that was only that much and they were made to order. I should have jumped on that. It's a pretty sweet looking jacket.
Yeah, it's genuine leather. It is quite thin, I will say.
Like soft leather, yeah.
Yeah. And the jacket's also pretty thin, period, but it is cushioned on the inside, so it's not uncomfortable.
Starfleet regulation.
But yeah, so I was fine paying that much for it because I had originally bought it as like for a Halloween costume, and I was fine paying that much for it just because I'm like, you know what, like I think it's sick looking. I'll just wear it casually as a jacket.
It's good to get use out of the things that you own. Past me often had trinkets or clothes or whatever that I would like kind of sparingly use. And I don't think like that anymore. It's like use it or lose it is like my mindset lately. Like I have so much shit where I'm like, I just keep putting this in boxes and moving with it, but like not using it or not just putting it on display or not wearing it or whatever. And it's like, if I'm not selling it or using it or wearing it, then like maybe it should just be donated or turfed.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am to an extent. Like I'm really into like collectibles and stuff, like
Yeah.
much more so than you are. But generally with most things, like I kind of have the feeling that if I don't have like an immediate use for this, there's no point in keeping it. Like I don't understand the concept of like renting a storage locker, for instance. I'm not throwing shade at anyone who does.
I am.
That's not what I'm doing. But to me, it's just like if I care so little about something or have like such little use for it that I can just store it away in a storage locker for like years and years, like 20 miles away, then what's the point?
I have a buddy I feel like it's with older generations, especially, but like Gen X and like boomer people, who pays like $80 a month to just like store a bunch of shit because he just has so much shit, like, furniture and boxes of stuff and like whatever. And it's like, or is it 180? Anyways, it's
Yeah,
more
storage
money than I
lockers
would.
aren't cheap.
Yeah. And I'm like, fucking turf or donate like at all, man. Get rid of it. And it's like, oh no, man, this is like solid oak, and oh, this is well then it's or collectible or something, then sell it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I will. And then like that person for like 10 years and you help them move. And you're like, you still fucking have this? Dude. Weighs
Get-
like 400 pounds and like I don't even know what it is. Like a vanity base or something like that.
Here's the thing with things like that, and like, oh yeah, it's solid oak. No one's gonna fucking buy that though.
Oh, I'm gonna bring it to like what are those shops where you put
Consignment.
it consignment? Oh yeah, I know a person who has a consignment shop, and it's like, then do it,
Yeah.
do it, fucker. They don't. They don't. And it's, I don't know if it's like memories or if it's like they feel like they're losing something, but I'm moving in the opposite direction where we have a friend, ex Tina, um, from our Blockbuster history. And she got on the bandwagon a bit late, but she fucking loves Funko Pops. So, like, whatever. And I started pulling away from that. I'm like, they're just hanging out in the boxes. They're not even that good looking. Why do I even have these? Oh, right, from loot crates and other shit, right?
Yeah, I have a bunch of them that were given to me as like gifts, and I've been
Oh,
like,
Christopher's a nerd. He likes this stuff, right? And you're like,
I the only time that I thought like I I don't know. One I got an ex of mine's mother got me a 2-pack Funko Pop of the Young Bucks, the AEW tag team. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, I like that.
and indeed, yeah, I've got like one or two. Yeah, I kept them because
But
it has some meaning, right?
But yeah, for a while there, people were just buying me like Funko Pops of like anything that's even vaguely like linked to something that I like.
And
Even
there's like 200 of those things released a year.
like I even
Like,
got Funko Pops for things that I didn't from people for things that I didn't like.
oh, really? Really?
Yeah, like someone years ago got me a Funko Pop of like a basketball player. I don't even remember who it was. I'm like, oh yeah, because I'm like really into basketball, huh?
They probably saw it like for sale because it wasn't selling, and they were like, good enough.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, this looks like something. Christopher's a nerd. This looks like something a nerd would like.
Oh, I recognize this because I'm not a nerd. I like basketball, so he'll probably like this because it's basketball and nerd.
Because he's a nerd.
Fucking nerd. So I ended up meeting up with ex Tina, Aquafina, and gave them like two huge bags of them, and I only kept like Neo from like the Matrix, and I can't remember. And she
The
had
only
like,
the only time I've ever actively sought out Funko Pops was back in 2015 or 2016, around the time the first season of Daredevil came out. They released a series of like four. One of them was like Matt Murdock, one was Wilson Fisk, one was Daredevil, and one was Daredevil in the black suit. Those I actually sought out, and I still have them. Those are the only ones that I probably wouldn't get rid of.
sounds like you love Funko Pop. But I gave them like all away to her initially because she was like, oh shit, I heard you have like Napoleon, and it's like really hard to find and it's expensive on eBay and all of these stuff. And I'm like, you can just have it, but
Are
you
we
have
talking
to take,
Napoleon as in the French general,
oh
or
yes, sorry, Napoleon Dynamite specifically. And she had the Pedro one and she needed Napoleon.
Oh yeah,
And I didn't realize that one was hard to find. I'm like, but you have to take the rest I have.
sneaky, sneaky.
And my ex was like, oh, like this Joker one is like a limited thing from like a loot crate though, and that's for like over $100 or whatever. I'm like, I would need to post it on eBay. I would need to ship it. I need to do all of this, or I can give them all to this person who likes them,
Who
right?
will derive joy from this? I mean,
And likes Joker and likes Batman and like will actually put them up and like have them and observe them.
I mean, to be fair, you could have also taken them to Cherry Bomb,
That's true. Yeah.
but still,
And they
it's
probably would have, and I could have came out with maybe, I don't know, hundo or something like that, but who knows, or more or less, but
yeah, probably less. That Joker one, if it was going for like a hundo on eBay, they'd probably give you like $15,
oh, and then sell it for
and then sell it
60.
for a hundo.
Or sell it for a hundo. $15, a little man. I want to put that shit in your hand.
That's right.
And that is how we landed on episode 2 of season 3 of Picard.
Wow, that was a weird tangent we just went on, but oh well.
You know, that sounded more like our super show on Patreon, where we just rant about the things going on and the random what's.
Yeah, if you want to hear more of just chatter like that, go to patreon.com/lazorcomb, LAZORCOMB. $5 a month, you get an entire exclusive podcast of just that kind of bullshit. So, yeah.
That bullshit and more.
And more. And more. Yeah, anyway, this is episode 108 of the Lazor Comb podcast, and this week we are continuing on with our programming block, TRONK II, The Search for Boogaloo, where we where we are going through
New Trek,
basically, with the exception of Star Trek: The Animated Series, which we kicked off TRONK II with. But yeah,
a little bit older, yeah.
we're mostly going to be going through new Trek shows. Last week we did Discovery, and this week, because we're doing them in order of chronological order of release, this week we're doing Star Trek Picard. And specifically, we are reviewing the second episode of season 3, Disengage.
Which we randomly came upon at the end of our Discovery episode.
Yeah, through the
random.
Put it through the old random number generator and hit roll and hit stop, and it just happened to land on this episode.
That's
the
right.
First time.
First time. And Siege was like, "Oh, glad that we landed on season 3 because there's some good ones in there."
Mm-hmm.
And here we are.
And you're like, really? Are there?
That sounds like something I would say.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, season 3, episode 2. Disengage.
It aired on February 23rd, 2023.
You knew where I was going with that, huh?
Oh, yes.
I was trying to stall while I
had it up. Yeah.
While I brought up the
pretty recent
the wiki article.
Yeah.
Pretty recent, yeah.
The gist is
2 years ago.
The crew of the Titan, the U.S.S. Titan, they encounter an old lady, probably, an old fling that he never called back, who's got a big old ship. And she's like, hey, now. I even got Brooke and Jubal involved, and you still didn't call me. And you...
It's a very kind of obscure reference.
I'm going to take that kid. And he's got a bounty on him, and he's well, what can I say? Give me the Crusher, or I'll crush you.
Give me
and
the
he's
crush.
Like, oh gee, give me the Crusher.
Give me the Crusher, or I'll crush
he is,
you.
Right? It's like Jack, right? Yeah.
Jack Crusher.
Or
Real
I'll crush
quick.
you, brother. Go ahead.
Jack Crusher, second son of Dr. Beverly Crusher from Next Generation.
Arguably better son.
Probably, yeah. But think about this, though. So he is the love child of Dr. Beverly Crusher and Captain Jean-Luc Picard, who is named after her first husband. That's kind of weird. That's weird to me. Naming your son with one dude after the last dude you were with.
Did he die?
He died, yeah.
Okay, let me think for a second.
And listeners, let us know in the comments or on the Discord or whatever if you think it's odd too, or don't.
Okay. Dr. Beverly. So you're Dr. Beverly Crusher, and I'm Jack. Okay. Mom. So my dad's Jean-Luc,
Yeah,
Admiral Jean-Luc Picard.
but I'm named after Wesley's dad.
But I'm named after Wesley's dad, my half brother. Now, do I know who my real dad is at this point, or no?
No,
Oh, so do I think that I'm full brothers with Wesley?
no, there'd be no way because like Wesley was already an adult and her husband
Yeah.
had been long dead, so he would know
Oh,
that
died before I was born?
long, like decades before you were born.
That's what I thought, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And
'Cause
I found out that your first dead husband's name was Jack.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird.
it is kind of weird.
Kind of weird. Yeah, kind of weird, actually.
And if I was Picard, I would be like, really? You didn't name him Jean-Luc? You named him after the last
And if
guy?
I was Jack, I'd be like, thank God you didn't name me Jean-Luc. I would pronounce it Jean Lucci.
Jean Lucci.
Lucci.
Very random fun fact, but I actually dated someone for a little while with the last name Picard.
How'd that make you feel?
I thought it was funny. I was like, well, if we ever have kids, then we're definitely naming one of them Jean-Luc.
And they were like, yeah, this isn't working.
She was fine with the idea, but
Oh.
that relationship did not work out for a myriad of reasons.
No, John Lucas, middle name Lucas.
Jean Luck.
Gene Luck. There you go.
We call him
with the
Lucky
Huffing-
Jean.
We call him Lucky Gene Picard. We call him Lucky Gene Pickard.
Woohoo!
Imagine working at, again, this dates us. Imagine working at a Blockbuster and Lucky Gene Pickard comes to rent. There were lots of people with seemingly fake names, except that you need your ID to open up an account.
Yeah.
A lot of names that should have been fake that I empathetically am angry at their parents for.
As
like that lady Peace. I'm not going to put their name out there, but their last name.
As a weird aside, on the subject of having to check people's ID for to bring up their accounts at video stores, I met someone with the same name as me.
Spelled the same way?
Spelled the same way. The only difference between our names is, and I'm not going to name my full name, and because I don't want to dox myself or them. But so I have two middle names. I got my first name, two middle names, and my last name. First name is actually Christopher, people.
Are you telling me your last name is not Siege?
That's exactly what I'm saying, yes.
Oh, okay.
I wish it was, god damn it. But anyway, so this person had the same name as me. They had same first name, their middle name was my first middle name, and we have the same last name. They were born a day before me in the same year. It was the weirdest shit. And here's what I'm wondering, is because I was born right after midnight, so I'm barely, my date of birth, like I'm barely like on that day. I'm almost wondering if this person was like my mom's were like at the hospital together and my mom heard that that the chick in the room next to her had named her baby son.
And she's like,
me too, man.
oh, you imagine that they're side by side, like in the same room and like cradling a baby. And it's like, oh, like this is the name of my kid. And she's like, not that she stole it. You're not saying that she stole it. Unless.
Who knows? But yeah, it was the weirdest thing. All same name as me, just without the second middle name, and born a day before I was in the
what
same
if they
year.
were born at 11, like 50 something, and you were born shortly after midnight, and you were twins separated at birth?
Oh shit. Well, this person looked nothing like me, so.
Okay, probably not then.
But yeah, shout out to that guy. You don't know who you are, and I'm sure you are not listening.
Imagine if he was. Although I guess he wouldn't know unless he remembers random Blockbuster guy.
Yeah, random Blockbuster guy with the same name. We were both like really tripped out by it. Like I even showed him my ID because I'm like, dude, we have the same name.
Like put it in front of him.
I'm like, dude, we have
He's
the
like, "What the
same.
fuck?"
We have the same name and like almost the same birthday. He's like, what, really? And I showed him my ID, and he's like, holy shit.
I would be fucking shocked if I found somebody with the same first, particularly my first and middle. Last name is whatever. First and middle and last name. I'd be like, who the fuck was your parent and what were they smoking?
I know your full name, and yes, I would be shocked as well.
There'd be something up if they had the same bullshit name that I had.
See, the thing with my full string of names is like they're fairly generic.
It's still odd, but like
It's
can
odd.
happen.
It's odd, but I could see it happening. With your names, though, I couldn't see that being like a coincidence.
No, I would need to investigate that. I'd be like, hold on, I need to make some calls. That's fucking eerie.
Right. Anyway, so to get back to the episode, episode opens in a flashback from 2
Lucky
weeks
Jean.
ago. From Lucky Jean flying through space. Flying through space with some classic rock, because I just love 20th century music being contemporary, being in
where
Star
they
Trek.
are in their part of the galaxy, classic rock, the radio waves will have reached that quadrant. So he's just using a normal radio antenna to listen to. Oh, but they would have stretched and
Wouldn't be listenable.
they would have deteriorated their bed, and it wouldn't be listenable. Oh, never mind.
So I liked where you were going with that, though.
I tried. Right, like, because they go faster than light travel, so like arguably he could be picking up classic rock stations but they would lose quality over large distances.
Imagine if like far off in the Gamma Quadrant in like the 25th century, early 25th century, late 24th century, they'll just then be discovering Brook and Jubal in the morning.
Holy shit. And whatever like aliens are like tuning in.
We need an update for this, damn it.
We need an update, damn it. Now imagine me listening to them on the fucking radio.
Yeah,
You're
you're
tuning in every morning.
yeah, you're an OG. I only discovered them because they went clips of that radio show from like 10, 15 years ago have gone viral on TikTok for whatever reason.
Often accompanied by like a Minecraft jumping background or
Or
Subway
this,
Surfers
I was gonna say, or some like mobile game where like a thing is like running along
on trains
like,
and collecting coins. Subway Surfers.
Subway Surfers. It's weirdly compelling to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
It reminds me of a kid when you're looking out of the car when your parents are like driving somewhere and you imagine you're like a little guy like running on the power lines.
Yeah.
Just me, or did everyone do that?
I would not running on power lines, but I would imagine like action movie stuff like going on.
Like car or like Sonic, like in like the farm fields beside us, or running alongside the car or something like that.
Or like Spider-Man like swinging by, or like the Batmobile like zipping past you. Yeah, I would imagine stuff like that when I was a kid.
Yeah. That's what Subway Surfers background is like.
Anyway,
All right.
I will say for this I actually like this classic rock song.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah. It was hard to find out what it was exactly, and it's not really listenable anywhere, which is
No.
kind of weird to me. But oh well.
Exclusive for this episode of Star Trek.
Anyway, so Jack Crusher is like cruising on a spaceship, and he gets ambushed by like he's trying to like land on a planet or something, and he gets
Fucking border patrol stops him, and they're like, "What are the codes, Mister?" And he's like, "Do I look like a guy with codes? Come on."
and they're like, well, we're gonna have to come aboard and do an inspection. He's like, by all means, all we have here are vital medical supplies. And so the guys beam over and they open the one crate, and he's like, see, vital medical supplies. And he's like, what about that crate? And he opens it up and he's like, ah, Romulan ale. Is this a medical supply? Are you using this to like disinfect wounds? And he's like, no. I wouldn't. I can't remember, but anyway, I
He's
can't
like,
remember what
it's
he
great
says.
for like numbing the pain, and it's a good everyday medicine
And he
for
ends up.
longevity. And then it's
He's
just
like,
like now,
he's like, feel free to take a case or something like that. He's like,
and
is
he's
that?
like, "You trying to bribe me, boy?" And he's like, "If I was trying to bribe you, I'd be bribing you with this." And he flips open another crate, and it's just got guns.
Yeah. And the guy is like, you know what? I'm going to take this bottle of Romulan ale, and you two over there, you're going to grab those crates of phase rifles. And I will bid you a good day, sir.
A good day.
But as
but
he's...
the gist of it is that like a lot of the planet is dying from like an engineered plague that the medicine can help, and he wants like the warlords that are like fighting for the scraps, the ones that engineered it, to like fight and shoot at each other. So he brokers a deal. Yeah.
So the guy takes the bribe, but then as he's like on his way out, he radios someone and he's like, I found Jack. Let her know I found Jack Crusher. Dun dun dun.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sneaky beaky.
He sells him out.
Son of a bitch. So we find out he's like a freedom fighter, renegade, good guy, kind of bad guy.
Now, in the present, on the bridge of his ship, which is being like blasted to shit by this other like big ass ship.
Oh yeah, they're in a nebula, in a big ass cool like new Trek ship, like with pointy things on the front.
Yeah.
And like we've actually, let's talk about the conversation we had.
The ship is very like Kelvin verse, like think like Nero's ship from like Star Trek 2009.
Ship,
It's very much of that design.
Oh, it's pointy and scary, and when it like moves, it goes brrrr.
And we talked last week about how Alex Kurtzman, one of the writers / producers of those Kelvin verse movies, is like kind of in charge of the Star Trek TV shows now. So a lot of his ideas from those movies carried over.
Yeah.
For better or worse. But anyway, yeah, it's very like pointy.
And
like
scary.
Like it's got like big like claws like sticking in.
Like
it is cool
claws.
looking. I'll give it that.
It is. No, it
cool
is.
Looking. It's called the Shrike, we will find out later.
Yeah, the Shrike. But there's no. They just open fire and damage the. I think it's the Titan.
No, this is Jack Crusher's ship right
Shaw's
now.
ship is the Titan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the Titan yet in the episode. Yeah, so the conversation we had earlier, I was like, because when the Shrike shows up, it makes a sound. I was
The
like,
Inception horn.
The Inception horn. And I said to Cal, I was like, so what is it with sci-fi since Mass Effect 2 where every like big ass spaceship makes an Inception horn when it appears? Think
It's almost a rule at this point.
Think about a lot of sci-fi, especially in the 10s, in particular. A lot of big ass alien spaceships in sci-fi make Inception horns when they appear.
Mm-hmm. Because it's otherworldly and intimidating.
And I think what introduced the concept to sci-fi films was Mass Effect 2 with the Reapers.
Yeah, they've got kind of like a like they almost like whale sounds mixed with like Inception horn sounds. Yeah.
Well, and in Mass Effect 3 in particular, which came out in 2012? Yeah, 2012. Mass Effect 3 in particular, whenever the Reapers appear, like even if you're like flying around the star map, when the Reapers appear, you hear I'm making the set. What I'm going to do is in editing, I'm going to insert the sound into the episode so people know what the fuck we're talking about.
I think they know. Stop it.
But just in case. Anyway, so that was a big trend in sci-fi.
I had to throw a foam thing at my cats. And I hit them from across the room. Now they're going to eat it. But yeah, that was a trend. And I was like, wait, you're right. That is like just a sci-fi sound now.
Yeah.
And indeed. The Shrike makes that sound.
The Shrike makes that sound.
A Shrike being a Boyd. A Boyd. I know it because of a spooky, a sci-fi monster, actually, called the Shrike. What book was that from? Shit. Was it just called? I can't remember where I read it. But it's a bird that kills its prey by impaling them on thorns of plants.
That's pretty metal.
Yeah. So like bigger prey or prey that it can't just easily kill. It's like, well, whatever. But also to store the food. Because it's like, oh, if I just drop this on the ground, something's going to eat it. But if I impale it here, then I can come back for it.
Clever go.
Horrifying.
And for those of us who didn't know what a Shrike is prior to watching this, the big bad of the episode, Vatic, she gives a little speech about what a Shrike is.
Kind of, yeah.
Interesting.
She gives a speech about how it like picks. Does she even mention that it's a bird from Earth?
She does, yeah.
Oh, she does. Okay, but does she mention the thorn things or just? I can't remember. She likes talking.
She says some bullshit about how it's a bird that kills its prey without malice or rage, and it's not like driven by the like frenzy of hunger or some bullshit.
That's what I mean. She just kind of goes on, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's just a fucking bird.
So what I will say about Vatic is, first off, Vatic is played by Amanda Plummer, daughter of the late great Christopher Plummer.
Oh,
who was also a Star Trek actor. He was in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. When I mentioned on a recent episode about you have enjoyed Shakespeare until you've read it in the original Klingon. That was Christopher Plummer's character who said that.
Oh, okay.
So Vatic is played by his daughter, Amanda.
That's cool.
Which I thought
she's
was
good at playing a fucking not insane, but like
cartoony.
Something about yeah.
I actually like Vatic as a villain, but she's a very cartoony villain.
Oh no, definitely. That's a good descriptor.
Like even right down to maniacal laughter.
Oh, she's got that down pat. She's got like crazy person.
Yeah.
Would be a good Batman villain. But Batman villains hate old women. Old men everywhere. Old men everywhere in Batman, but maybe there's some old women. I don't know. But anyways, I feel like she'd be a good like cartoon, like a comic book villain. But here she is in Star Trek, and she's like says some bullshit to them like, hey, and before this they had tried to beam Jack Crusher.
You know who she would be good as, I think, is Madam Web. Now, setting aside that like dumb movie that came out early last year, actual comic book Madam Web
that existed.
Actual like comic book Madam Web, like the old like lady with like her eyes like covered because she's blind. I think Amanda Plummer would play a really good version.
You know what? Yeah, I've only from bits and pieces here and there. Luckily, not the movie. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, Madam Web was a pretty big part of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon.
Oh yeah. Anybody that watched that cartoon knows Madam Web. Yeah. I feel like that too. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's her. That can be her comic book role. Anyway, so on the bridge of Jack Crusher's ship, we
The
have
Crush Mobile, if you will.
uh, the the cr- sure whatever. I was trying to come up with something better, but I was just
The
fumbling my
Klingon
words.
Crusher.
The Klingon Crusher 9000.
There you go.
Uh, yeah, so on the bridge, we got Jack Crusher, we got Jean-Luc Picard, we have William T. Riker, and we have Beverly Crusher in a stasis pod.
Hmm.
And there's some bullshit going on. Picard goes around and starts putting up these transport inhibitors
Yeah.
around the bridge, and
Just in time.
just in time because Vatic is all of a sudden tries to beam Jack Crusher off the bridge, but then Picard activates the last transport inhibitor, which stops the transport out. But this tells them immediately that it's specifically him that Vatic is after.
Hmm.
Because at first, I believe they thought that it was them. Like Picard and Riker thought it might be them that they were after.
Yeah. But then they beam some salt troops online, and Riker like electric grenades them
Yeah.
with like little effort. And then I guess they don't have that many soldiers on the Shrike because they're like, oh shit, well, we tried. Well, time to slowly peck away at the ship.
Over on the USS Titan, there's some like back and forth between Captain Shaw and his first officer, 7 of 9.
That's right, yeah.
First officer, 7 of 9. She's trying to convince Shaw to like go and rescue them, and he's like, "I'm not going to like."
This is a science vessel, damn it.
I'm not
That's
gonna
outside of Federation space.
and I'm not going to endanger the lives of my crew just for a couple of like geriatric like old heroes, basically.
What ends up finally getting him later, though, is it's like you can be the captain who let 2 like legends die, or you can be the hero that like saved like those 2 heroes.
Yeah.
Like that's just how there's one of 2 ways that it's gonna end. And I'm like, ooh, appealing to the what's it called when you leave behind legacy, appealing to his legacy, huh?
Yeah.
And that apparently works because there's a cool scene where it's like and comes out of like warp and it cuts the force field green jello,
The tractor
half.
beam.
The tractor beam. That's what I'm going for. I watch Star Trek, people. Cuts it in half and it's like all slow motion, cool. And I thought that was pretty cool.
It's a cool shot, yeah.
But technically did not engage like in combat. So
Just prior to that, too, Jack and Picard and Riker are like, okay, well, we have to escape, so let's get on the shuttle and get out of here. And so Vatic, anticipating this, destroys the shuttle.
blows up some chunks of the ship, but not the whole thing,
Yeah,
destroying the shuttle. And they're like, well, fuck.
they're like, well,
And
shit.
Vatic does some stupid shit that is, I mean, okay, fine, I guess, but it's more blatant in this episode. She's like, when they eventually like, because they have a couple back and forth over comms, and she's like, oh, you have 1 hour to hand over Crusher. He's got a huge bounty on his head, I tells you.
That happens later in the episode, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is right, that's after he's on the Titan. You're right.
Yeah, the trope that Cal's alluding to though is like where like a villain will give characters like an ultimatum and that they have like a set amount of time to choose, like to decide what they're going to do. But it doesn't really make any sense if you like think about it too much, because it's like the villain should just be like, well, hand him over now or I'm going to blow you the fuck up. You have like 5 seconds.
Yeah, you have like 30 seconds. You can beam him to me or let me beam him. or we're just going to blow you the fuck up.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, that's if the villain is honest, if they will. So I'm trying to piece together, she gave them an hour.
She gave them an hour, yeah. Which,
And I'm like, got to give them long enough to
come up with a plan.
come up with a scheme to get away or fight back or something like that. Because as they find out, the ship is vastly superior in every metric, in every possible way. Like they don't stand a chance.
Oh yeah, it gets we see more of that in subsequent episodes too.
Oh.
But yeah, so she gives them an hour, and that is very much a trope in movies and TV, and it's simply just because, like, it's not realistic in any way. It's simply because the plot necessitates it. We need to give the protagonist time to figure out a solution.
That took me out of it a bit. I'm not going to lie. I understand, but it's like, it's because the show has another 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
But what, like you said, like, why? It's like, hey, lower your shields and let me beam them on now.
Yeah.
My finger is moving towards the torpedoes. Oh, it's like 20 seconds away. Here it comes. Let us beam them on board any second now. Come on.
You have 5, 4, 3, 2,
1.5. Oh, we went up in seconds.
Yeah.
We went from 2 to 2.5.
2 3/4.
Speaking of weird
2 6/8.
Oh shit, we're gaining time. 3, 4, 6, 10.
You just keep looping back and forth until they finally give in. Like 10 minutes later.
So part of me does think, okay, she's very hesitant to engage and destroy a Starfleet ship. Like, then you become like an intergalactic terrorist.
Well, it's not that. It's that she needs Jack alive.
Especially if what she's saying is true, that she's like a bounty hunter and she needs him alive and he's worth an infinite amount of money.
I get the impression this character gives no fucks about like messing with Starfleet.
That's my impression too. And at one point during their communication, she's like, "Good afternoon, gentlemen." At least I believe it's afternoon in the Sol system. And I messaged Christopher this. I'm like, this bitch thinks an entire system has an afternoon. And Siege replied back, "Oh, well, on Earth."
Earth time.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Well, maybe on Earth time. And I'm like, on all of Earth?
Yeah, and then the wheels started
time
turning.
zones hit you.
Then the wheels started turning in my head, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Well, but then because we obviously
in my defense, I had just been throwing up.
Yeah.
Was dealing with a little bit of food poisoning this morning.
And indeed, I talked to my partner about this as well as you, and both of you made the same point. Maybe there's like so that like Mars colonies and like Earth colony or like Jupiter stations or like whatever, so their time syncs up. Maybe there's a Greenwich Mean Time for Starfleet in general. It goes on a 24-hour clock.
I speculated that like standard Starfleet time would be basically Pacific Standard, because Starfleet Command is in San Francisco.
So our time,
the time zone we live in,
is galactic human time, folks. So that being said, maybe Sol time is on 24-hour intervals. Yeah. Different than what Earth is, right? But like, so communications can make sense. Oh, we're going to send you this call at like 0600 like Starfleet.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is funny being like, a good afternoon. Oh, I mean in your star system. And it's like, bitch, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if you think about it, like for a spacefarer, like
Greenwich space time.
For a spacefaring species at this point, like humanity has been in the stars for centuries.
Yeah, hundreds of years. Yeah.
The notion of like time zones and things like that probably would be pretty irrelevant.
We would just stick to our species time zones, which would be 24 hours, right? Like we evolved roughly 24 hours in a day.
And
so it would make sense that our star date time, right, would be in 24-hour universal chunks, so that when they match records, they can find out exactly.
Well, and we know that they follow a 24-hour clock too, because they'll be like, "Oh, report to engineering at 0600."
We've seen that.
Yeah.
So it's probably synced up with Sol universal.
And
time.
so in this future, like all of Starfleet, all of Earth, like everything would probably follow what is essentially like
interstellar time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would probably follow like what the time of day it is at Starfleet Command, which would be Pacific Standard Time.
But on Earth, like you still probably work your 9 to 5 and you still have your local time zones. But in space, there's a
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's Pacific Standard Time, damn it.
I wouldn't be surprised if in this future, if all of Earth just followed the same time.
And then it just depends on where you're at. Oh yeah, so 9 to 5 means nothing.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, I don't know, like we set our time nowadays.
We're asking the real question.
We set our time nowadays based on like a day-night cycle, but I feel like when you're like a spacefaring species, that will become that won't be terribly relevant anymore.
Maybe. Every nerds deep dive and find out if Earth still has time zones.
I guarantee there's a Memory Alpha article about this.
Oh, probably.
I'll look into it after.
We're not the first ones in this decade or the last two that have thought about this, right?
And I'm sure there is an answer in canon somewhere.
Probably. I'm not going to find out.
I'll look into it after we're done recording, because these are the kinds of nerd facts that I like to know.
Yeah.
So
what ends up happening with our gang is all four on board do end up getting beamed onto Shaw's ship,
onto the Titan. And immediately,
my
first thought was like, transporter inhibitors. What are you doing? Transporter inhibitors are still there. And fortunately, they're like, oh, we can't get a lock. And then on the bridge of Jack's ship, they're like, oh shit, the transporter inhibitors.
And they shoot them. And I like that when they arrive on the ship, they don't know who beamed them up, the Titan or the Shrike, because they have their like blasters out. And it's like, oh shit, okay, good.
But on the Titan, they have phasers pointed at them because they stole a shuttle. They stole a shuttle to go to Jack's
and wouldn't
ship.
you know it, Shaw's pretty sure that Seven helped them.
Yeah. Can't prove it,
and I
but
think
he's pretty sure.
He doesn't arrest her, but what does he do? He
relieves her of duty.
Relieves her of duty for insubordination. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, hey, there's this kid and there's another person in the med bay. We beamed them directly to med bay. And so they're like, they're saved. But then evil lady communicates with the Titan, is like, my dudes, come on. What are you doing? Give me that Crusher.
That kid is an international...
He's a menace.
Intergalactic criminal wanted both inside and outside Federation space. And I'm a bounty hunter, and I'm going to take him. By force, if necessary.
Listen here.
Now, I'm going to drop my shields, and you can run a scan of my ship, just to see how fucking powerful it is.
Go on, do it. And so she does, and they're like, all right, scan away.
They're like, holy crap, we don't even know what half these weapons are. Yeah,
and they start like listing off, these 55 antimatter protitos and 256 like Sophon torpedoes and Proxy Centauri Alpha disintegrators and
37 Soliton radars.
37 Soliton radars. And then they turn, someone's like, in a row, and the guy's like, in a row. And then eventually Shaw's like, yeah, I get the picture. Oh, and also like some antimatter portal, blah, 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 Dumanahiki in the middle. And it's like the same tech that like took out the Starfleet recruitment, blah blah blah, and the very same,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, there was a big terrorist attack in the first episode of the
The
season.
flashback filled me in on that. Meanwhile, the B plot, which we almost forgot about, is a mess of a woman. Just a fucking mess, like sleeping in her makeup for like a week, probably smells like booze. I don't know who this lady is. I don't know if I like her, but she's arguing with the computer. She says, fuck protocol. She goes all Commander Shepard.
Her name's Ravi.
I'm trying to put my my attraction for the absolute mess of a MILF that this lady is aside.
Okay. I like Ravi.
What a fuck up. Like what is going on? Is she just the big I'm surprised she didn't throw like an empty whiskey bottle at a wall at one point. And indeed my idea of her like comes true, because we find out when she meets with her baby daddy on I don't know, crime planet.
Yeah.
Crime planet.
On the planet of crime.
Planet of crime. They call it Alpha Crime. Alpha Centauri Crime.
Alpha Centauri.
Alpha Centauri. We realize the name is stupid, but and on Alpha Centauri.
What criminals are uneducated fools anyway?
That's right. The baby daddy's like, what are you doing here, bitch? And she's like, listen, I need you to help me meet with Sneeper, Finkel, Jeeper Man. There's a Ferengi crime boss. Sorry, not crime boss. I was gonna say fixer, but isn't that cyberpunk?
I get the impression that he's a fence. / drug dealer.
What the fuck is the word they use? But a broker, an information broker.
Information broker.
Yeah, the elusive man of Ferengi, if you will, a big time Ferengi.
So, real quick about Ravi. So Ravi, from what I recall, like she's an ex-junkie who used to be in Starfleet, got kicked out, but then rejoined Starfleet as part of Section 31. They're like covert ops, like team,
I'm gonna say basically. The more they reveal about Section 31, they shouldn't like that.
Section 31.
It's not interesting.
Section 31 is very unpopular amongst Star Trek fans. So
I didn't.
It's wild to me that there's a Section 31 movie coming out in the next few days, because like, who the fuck is it for?
I'm not even the hugest like Trek nerd, and I'm like, what is this? Don't like it. You don't need like a secret society in like a secret.
Well, a lot of people argue that it's antithetical to the like overall message of Star Trek, which is like peace and diplomacy.
Yeah, and it's the elusive man. The elusive man claims to serve mankind first.
Yeah, Section 31 is basically Cerberus.
Right?
Yeah.
It feels like Section 31 is Cerberus.
So she's on some mission with like trying to figure out like who did the terrorist attack.
Because something doesn't add up.
Because something doesn't add up. And it's been pinned on this like Romulan criminal. But
he's like a petty criminal, and like it doesn't make sense why he'd target a recruitment center with such a crazy powerful. She's got like her conspiracy board, and she's like, why would it power like this, and it would only kill 100 something people when there's all these other targets that would.
Well, yeah, he's a gangster basically. He's like an intergalactic gangster, and it doesn't like doing terrorism doesn't really make sense for him.
And indeed, her
and her handler is like, leave it alone, disengage, which is where the name of the episode comes from. And she's like, no, fuck you.
Let's meet in person.
Yeah.
If you're gonna tell me to do stuff.
And he's like, no, fuck you.
No. Fuck you. And she's like, no, fuck you. And she goes off the grid. She hands in her badge and gun. And she goes to Alpha Centauri.
she hands in her comm badge and phaser. Slaps them on the desk. And she's
And,
like, you can't put me on suspension because I fucking quit.
Exactly. And she goes to Crimey Planet. And the baby daddy's like, man, I thought you were trying, I almost thought for a second here that you were trying to see our son. I could have like tried to like put in a word and get him to talk to you again. And she's like, holy shit, really?
Yeah, she's
And
just
he's
like
like-
surprised.
He's like, okay, like, listen, I can get you in touch with our son, or I can get you in touch with Ferengi crime boss guy. Not both.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
Choose.
it's a fair ultimatum to make, I think.
And it's like, you know what? Like, yeah, I'm on this guy's side, even though I just met him.
Especially since, like, because, like, we, the audience, know that she's trying to do something good. But from, like, this guy's perspective, she's, like, an ex-junkie who got thrown out of Starfleet, who it seems like is falling back to her old ways. So, makes sense.
And is trying to get in league with
Bad people.
like a broker, right? Like with bad people. And so he's like, yeah, that's what I thought, motherfucker. And she ends up meeting them. And I kind of like this guy.
So do
I was
I.
expecting him to last a few more episodes, actually, because I kind of like this guy. And he's like, well, come on, sit down. You're freaking me out. You're making me nervous. And you like the decor? I love retro shit, especially tacky Earth shit.
From,
and I'm
like, the 1970s.
Like the 1970s, arguably the ugliest decade.
That's why I like it so
you
much.
Earthlings. And indeed, there's so much fuck. Oh man, like the fish lamp that it's pretty great in how tacky and ugly like this like little his like little crime office is. He's got like bar stools, like those low swivel seats from diners as his like lounge like area.
Probably has like a pickup truck with like mud flaps that have like naked women on them.
Or that have the Playboy silhouette of like the one leg going up and the yeah. What else would he have?
A lava lamp.
Oh, a lava lamp. Was there one in this scene? It felt like there should have been multiple ones.
Blacklight posters of like a mushroom.
Oh, and those glow in the dark star stickers.
Yeah,
On
on
the-
the ceiling.
Fuck.
If
we
it
don't
sounds
really
like we're
glow in the-
naming very specific things from our own personal experience,
Yeah.
because we are.
And she meets him and she's like, oh, you're gonna want to know what I have to say because and she like tosses some crystals on like the desk for some reason.
Because he's like, you smell like Starfleet.
And if I've learned anything from Starfleet, it's that well they
You can smell them a while away.
yeah. I know the squealers, and when the bat gets his hands on her.
But yeah, she gives some crystals, and he's like, I like you, Starfleet, but why should I trust you? And she's like, because I work for blah blah. And he's like, Starfleet, you almost had me. But I know
almost had me.
you almost
Like
had
your
me.
Ferengi mobster voice. It's like right, it's perfectly in between them. You almost had me. But see, you can't work for Tlaloc because I have it on good authority that Tlaloc's right here. And he, like,
Now,
pulls out his fucking
if you
head.
want me to trust you, you gotta
Snort this line of cocaine.
you gotta do this fentanyl right here.
You gotta do this space fentanyl.
I call it Splinter.
I call it Splinter after my favorite cartoon from the 70s. My favorite cartoon character. There was a show called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Wild shit. Was that 70s? Thought it was 80s. I'm gonna Google.
It is 80s, but he would think it's from the 70s.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
remember, this is like 400
Hundreds of
years
years into the future. Yeah,
Yeah, he
it
would
bleeds together. Yeah.
he would probably think it's the 70s.
And he take Splinter. And when you do it, say cowabunga. I like that.
So she takes a big hit.
I
to
was
prove it
taking
to him.
bets on how she was going to do this. I'm like, ooh, in the arm. Oh, up the nose. I was so fucking wrong. She like points this thing at her eye and like, I thought it was going to be injected into the eye. No, it's a nasal spray for the eye.
It's a hypo spray, yeah. So yeah, she takes a hit of it, and he's like, "Now,
Like that scene from
tell me who you work for." And she's like, "I
on.
told you, I work for Toluca or whatever his name is." And he's
right.
like, "You know, it takes a
real son of a gun.
a real down and dirty skank of a junkie to be able to resist that. You must have been really something in your day."
Man, you must have been walking around with cum. So much cum. You must have made quite the rounds.
But you see, I know you don't work for Toluca, because he's right here. And throws his like severed head right in front of her. I like this guy.
That's why I was like, oh man, I wanted him to like kind of be not necessarily every episode, but like him being a recurring character.
Not the only character in this show that I like who gets killed off.
In the same
unfortunately.
episode they're introduced?
No, not in the same but just in general.
Quickly, yeah.
There's another character in this show that gets killed off later in the season, and I'm like, why? What are you doing to me? Fuck you, Alex Kurtzman.
So it turns out that people are persuasive to talk under this. It's like, I call it Splinter, not just because of a giant mutant kung fu rat from the 70s, but because, well, yeah, it takes you apart and it puts you back together.
Well, see, here's the thing with hard drugs is they do tend to make you more forthcoming with information.
Oh, there's a reason CIA gets you high when they interrogate you.
Especially amphetamines tend to make you very very open.
Isn't the truth serum an amphetamine?
No, I think it's just sodium pentothal.
Oh, really? Truth serum.
Sodium.
Yes. I have a feeling that regardless of what this is, he's expecting her to talk, but she's good memory. Sodium
pentothal.
Right, and that's put through the bloodstream, right? I don't want to sign up for this article.
Yeah. Oh, so it also sodium thiopental. Marketed as sodium pentothal. That's where I got that.
Yeah,
from.
good memory. Yeah.
Yeah, colloquial name
formerly known as sodium amytal. Oh, it's a drug of many a name.
You want to know how I know that sodium pentothal is truth serum?
Yeah.
Metal Gear.
Oh, I should have known. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I should have known.
Yeah, Campbell mentions sodium pentothal in a Kodak conversation.
Mm-hmm.
See, the thing with me is, like, when in doubt, just assume that the reason why I know something is because of Metal Gear.
Metal Gear or Silent Hill. If it's like military related, Metal Gear.
Yeah.
If it's about killing your ex-wife, it's Silent Hill. So yeah, he's like, oh, but don't worry, I'll get my answers one way or another. And as she's getting high, there's
I'm not gonna work with you, but I will take your money. And these two, they're gonna take your head.
They're gonna take your head. And
we get a fucking dope introduction of someone being impaled with a Klingon. What are they called again?
Batliff.
Klingon Batliff. Yeah.
And but
green
the
blood
scene
just
is
shoots
all
everywhere.
the scene is all Hotline Miami, and as the lights are going, and she's like, the high is coming like quickly, and so the camera's going around. You would think that GP's he's got a name like Sneeper or Sneepy, whatever. Sneed, there you go. Sneed. That's exactly what I would expect his name to be. go and see the mafia Ferengi named Sneed. You would think he would run away during this massacre, but he's in shock.
It sounds like a slime ball, kind of a name for like a slime ball character.
He probably chose it.
Probably.
But yeah, there's a badass like
very popular name on Earth in the 1970s.
I assure you. And I know. Because it was printed on the inside of this jacket. But before he has a reaction to do anything, all of his like goons are cut down, and there's a fair number of them, which is probably why it catches him off guard.
Lots of blood in this scene.
But green-blooded aliens, yeah. But before he can react, his head's chopped off.
Yeah, and Raffi is all like, whoa, from the drugs. And all of a sudden, we see who her handler is, and he's like, I told you, disengage. And it's fucking Worf. A Silver
Pretty
Fox
badass.
Worf.
Silver Fox Worf. Pretty good intro.
Yeah.
And this implies that this was her anonymous handler.
Yeah. Because he's like, I told you, disengage.
Yeah. So there's not much left, but to jump back to the A plot, the prime plot.
Riker has been trying to like nudge Picard along, being like, there's something familiar about Jack. And he keeps alluding to it, and he's like, you really don't see it? And he's like, what? He's like, he's your son, Jean-Luc. And
meanwhile, Crusher is escaping. He escaped with a headbutt, which I think is fucking hilarious. And like a cool little like devicey thing that like temporarily moved the
before this,
field.
while he's in the brig, Picard comes to see him because Shaw is like, you know what? I'm just going to hand this kid is a criminal. I'm just going to hand him over and just wash my hands of it. And
oh, right. Picard's like, let me have a word with the boy and find out what's going on.
And Shaw is like, we have an hour. You have half that to get him ready for transport. And so Picard goes and sees him, and they like kind of have a back and forth. It's basically just Picard like getting to know who this guy is,
seeing what kind of criminal he is. Oh, you're a freedom fighter, and he's like, if a freedom fighter is someone who brings like medicine to sick people and tries to heal like what about like an arms dealer or whatever, and it's like,
and he's
like society can be sick.
He's like, what would your mother do if she knew that you were doing all of this? And he's like, who do you think taught me all this shit, dude?
Yeah, you haven't talked to her in,
like you haven't seen her in like
everyone 20... you know has changed, and it's like,
yeah, you haven't seen her in like 25 plus years. Like, people change.
Everyone you know has probably changed, my dude.
Yeah,
and it's like, what would your father think? And I liked this.
He's like, who is your father? And when he yells, who is your father, all I could think of was like Kindergarten Cop.
Who is your daddy?
And what does he do?
And what does he do? It's funny that I thought that too. And he's like, I had no father.
Yep.
And Picard tears like,
yeah, he's like, my father was never around.
And then he stops grilling him questions because he's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then
so when when he's in the brig, he's like, yo, mate, to the
oi, fucker.
Yeah.
Oi, cunt.
Can you tell me what strength of this force field is? And he's like, who wants to know? He's like, well, according to Starfleet regulations, a prisoner has a right to know the strength of the force field in the event that I may try to intentionally harm myself with it. And he's like, level 10, standard issue. He's like, okay, thanks, and does like a thing to drop the force field.
And he moves it to the frequency that it's needed.
Yeah, and then fucking headbutts like, the guy.
Why were you that close to the force? Whatever, probably wasn't expecting it. Headbutts.
Because he walks up to him like all puffing his chest out, and he's like, why don't you like give it a lick and find out?
Oh yeah, give it a lick. I imagine it would zap you because your tongue's wet. Like licking a battery, but worse. like with D batteries.
So he goes on the run, and Shaw is like, "Oh, for fuck's sakes, lock the ship down." 7 of 9 decides to take a squad of people with her. She's like, "I don't care if I'm relieved of duty or not. I'm going to track this guy down." And people are following her. So it's not like she's been relieved of duty, but it's not like
she hasn't been like court or what's the word?
She hasn't been like reprimanded or anything.
Yeah, she's not she hasn't lost like rank. She's not like yeah. And they find him at the
transporter trying to beam out, and like the transporter is locked down. And 7 of 9 radios. She's like, "Oh, I found him. He's in the transporter room trying to beam out." And Picard says to Shaw, he's like, "If he was trying to run, he would be in a shuttle halfway across the galaxy by now. But he went to the transporter, which means the only thing he can transport to is the other ship. He's trying to save his mother." And Shaw is just like, "Well, let him."
Cool, let him.
Release the transport controls.
And there's this moment where Riker comes into the...
Riker revives Beverly, who's just had like surgery to like treat her wound.
And I like it. They don't exchange any words. He just brings her onto the bridge.
I teared up a little bit.
I'm not even a huge like Trekkie, and I was like,
yeah, Riker is carrying her, like brings her onto the bridge, and they just have this back and forth where they just like look at each other. And like, credit to the actors, like I believe the emotional like back and forth going on there, just from them like looking at one another.
Mm-hmm. And
that's the kind of acting that always impresses me.
That's good. Immediately impresses me that when they could immediately impressed me. Sorry, when Picard's like, "Oh, belay that
order, Admiral's orders,
Admiral's orders, assuming control, lock down the ship and prepare the ion drives or like whatever." So he is like, "Nope, cancel that. Do. Let's get ready to rock and roll."
And Shaw is just like, "Look, Picard, like, just hand this kid over and like let's be done with it. Like, I know Beverly's your friend and you're trying to protect your friend's son, but like, for fuck's sake, dude." And Picard's like, "No, I can't do that." And Shaw's like, "Why not?" And he's like, "Because he's my son." And then Shaw's just like, "Oh, god damn it." And he starts typing on the console. He's like, "All right, transfer command controls to Admiral Picard." He's like, "Whatever happens next is on you, dude." I really like Shaw.
You know what? I like this guy.
I like Shaw a lot, actually.
And what's her name? Like messages them one last time or something like that. And she's like, "Oh, do you have my boy?" And he's all like, "Fuck you." And engage. And she's like, "What? I know that's your slogan, but what do you mean by and dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, he's like, she's like, "What? Right down to the very last moment, Jean-Luc Picard. What do you have to say?" And he's like, "Engage!" And like
motherfucker,
a big thing of like photon torpedoes like shoots out.
And they go underneath the ship and then go into the nebula.
Into the nebula, and they're like, "Well,"
she's like, "Good, chase him." Chase him.
Riker is like, "Well, they can't. They'll have to find us, and they won't be able to in the nebula or whatever." And Vadic is all like,
"I'll catch you, my pretties." And that's episode 2 of season 3 of Picard. Yeah. We've kind of said everything we thought as like we went. Siege, you just watched a very completely random 100%. Episode of Star Trek Picard. Would you tune in next week based on just this episode?
Absolutely, 100%.
There's no need for me to go in any more detail. I can see why you wanted to land on season 3. I'm like, it's got me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Me too, man.
Yeah. I'll avoid talking about any spoilers with you then, in case you want to watch through it, which I highly recommend. Oh, and the episode ends, which this is purely a season 3 thing. And when I watched the premiere of season 3 when it first aired, again, the member berries tasting very sweet made me tear up a little bit because it plays the First Contact theme over the credits.
That's what that is. Yeah.
That very like nice like piece of music that plays at the end over the credits.
Yeah.
It's the theme from First Contact, which is absolutely my favorite Star Trek movie.
It's nice. But to not delay further, just so we can wrap things up here, shall we roll our last Trek-isode?
Yeah, that was episode 108 of the Lazor Comb podcast. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. We're starting at the $5 tier. As I mentioned earlier, you get access to a bonus weekly Patreon exclusive show, the Super Lazor Comb Patreon Super Show. And there's a $10 tier that gives you the ability to pick a show for us to review a random episode of on this very podcast, as well as commentary tracks and other things. $20 tier has a whole bunch of other goodies, so if you want to get in on that, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. Join the Discord if you want to interact with us, or you can find us on Blue Sky, links in the description. We will be back probably next week, or maybe not. I might have something in the works that will take precedent over recording the Lazor Comb podcast next week.
That's true.
So we'll either be back next week or the week after with the final installment of Star Trek II, The Search for Boogaloo, where we're going to be talking about Star Trek Lower Decks, and holy shit, I am so excited.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For next Monday or for Lower Decks?
For both.
For both, yeah.
Yeah, for both.
How many episodes we got here?
50. So I'm going to hit screen share.
Oh, yeah, 50.
The screen is shared. So one random number between 1 and 50. And here we go. Where it stops. 23.
Lucky
knows.
number 23.
Let's see. Which one is episode 23? That would be
Mining the Mind's
episode?
Mines.
Mining the Mind's Mines. On a remote science outpost, stone orbs are bringing fantasies to life. Tendi starts her day as a senior science officer trainee.
Huh. Sounds fun.
Don't remember this episode, but, yeah. Well,
Look at that
there it
guy.
is.
He plays Dead by Daylight. Get him. There it is.
Yeah, so we'll be back next week or the week after with that. And until then, I've been Commander Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm Ensign Cal, your other host.
Thanks for listening. We will disengage you next time.